Hi friends, welcome back into my home here at Mark's Minis, where it should be blindingly obvious why we are painting 3D printed heads. Look, you know the problem. You've got expensive models that you're not painting because, oh, I'm afraid I'm not going to do a good paint job on them. Well, get yourself some cheap 3D printed heads and practice on them. They will force you to practice the three most critical points of all of our models: hair, faces, and eyes. So join me now as we paint some 3D printed heads, and through this process you will see how I can improve. And if I can do it, you can do it too. You're going to want to do this, I guarantee. Enjoy. So yeah, friends, this is the way. You want to up your game fast. 3D printed heads. They're cheap. Pretty much everyone you know has a 3D printer these days. Ask around, see if they'll print you up some heads. I asked around to my friends, they said, oh, you know, my printer's on the fritz, yada, yada. I finally found some new friends at Beach 3D Manufacturing. Yeah, baby, we're going to the beach. Woohoo! Link down below. So here I am going through the process of painting my first head, and my head is swimming with all the tutorials and tips and tricks I've been accumulating all this time. But one of the tutorials I do remember clearly is to use watercolors to paint eyes. So we're diving right in, we're painting the eyes using watercolors. And also in my mind is a number of makeup videos. So yeah, it was recommended to me to watch more than a few makeup videos. And I'm telling you, some of those were an eye-opener. What a lot of people call a foundation, yeah, that's a primer. It's full coverage. So next time you see someone in full makeup, remember the only part of them you're really seeing is their eyes. I'm really just following along with the makeup video here, trying to add brighter highlights to smaller areas with the hopes of blending them and smoothing them out later. So here I am using an actual makeup brush, trying to smooth all the highlights and the shading together. Now here I am making my actual first serious mistake on the project. I was a little too aggressive, and you can see I didn't wait long enough for the underlying layer to dry, and the brush stripped off some of the underlying layers of paint there. So I'm gonna have to come back over that cheek and build up that color again. Okay, so here we are doing our repair, and it was at this point I decided that I don't want to put too much time into my first head. I just got the basic idea, and let's continue on with some details. Let's wrap this head up. I've got a lot more heads to do, and I think I have exhausted what I can do with this particular method. This path, I think I've exhausted for myself. So let's call it done. Let's wrap it up and move on to the next head. So in order to move on to the next head, let's reestablish the under shading of magenta on the skin tone, and then we can proceed to finishing off the details of the face and move on to the hair. So we're doing the best job that we can. We came down with some bright highlights in a smaller area, and we're gonna try to smooth them out and finish up the skin tone here. All right, this is only our first head. I didn't want to spend too much time. Let's call the skin tone done and move on to the smaller details of the face, and then we can move on to the hair. I didn't want to spend too much time on the hair of this first model, although I like my initial results. I'm going to go back to this technique on future heads, and we're showing some promise here. I picked this print to start with because this particular print was a little rough. It had a couple of defects, but I went ahead and used those defects to my advantage. The lip ring was actually a defect, and I painted it as a lip ring, and also the slash along her face was a misprinted line, and I just used that as a guide to give it some visual interest. You know, and I would say that's quite all right for our first head, a first attempt at a 3D printed head. Let's call it done and move on to the next one. So friends, moving on to the next 3D printed head here, I decided to go with the all dry brushing approach. So came down with a dark undercoat, and then I thought I could dry brush my way lighter and lighter to get to a happy place. Let's see how it works out. So it turns out this head is printed with closed eyes. So I thought I would give them a sort of Egyptian priest look, closed eyes with eyes painted on the eyelids. So trying to get to a happy place, I resorted to an alternate series of washes and dry brushing. That didn't get me to where I wanted to be, so let's wrap this head up and move on to the next one. Yeah, so now friends, I'm getting really excited because I'm actually showing some real promise, some real improvement on this third and final head. So let me tell you, one of the things that changed the game for me was glazing. I used a lot of Liquitex matte medium, and I did a bunch of glazing to bring up the highlights from the dark base tone. Now I know what you're thinking, glazing, I hate glazing. You put on a layer of glazing and it's like nothing happens. And then you dry and you do it again and again, and maybe after 5 coats something starts to change. Well, I found a blend of paint and glazing that wasn't quite so slow, but also not too fast to cover too fast. So if you're patient, you will find that blend and use it and start glazing, bringing up the layers, have your blow dryer handy, dry between the layers. You will build up a nice skin tone with some translucency and some depth of color, and you'll be pleased. And here I am showing off my third and final head. I'm pretty happy with it. I think it's clear that I've shown some improvement on this last one. So friends, having established a decent skin tone with some translucency and some depth of color, we decided to finish off the model with a distinguished gray hair color. It came out all right. And yes, I think I'm pretty pleased to report that painting 3D heads leads to rapid improvement. It's obvious. If I can do it, you can do it too. Thanks friends for letting me share this project with you. If you've made it this far, then you are a true friend and you get me. You understand that I'm on this journey to become a better painter. And during this journey, we're going to meet interesting people and go to interesting places, take some classes, do some collaborations with some master artists in our space, all kinds of fun stuff, really interesting content. It's in here. I want to get it out there, and I'm having a lot of fun doing that. If it's fun for you, then please, all you got to do is subscribe, like,
share,
comment.
Fiddle with the bell icon. I don't even know what it does these days.
And if you did that, check out some of my other videos. Some of them are like even watchable.